Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Hopefully this video finds you guys doing well today. As promised about a month ago, I uploaded a top 10 most versatile epic champions in the game. A lot of you guys liked that video idea, not just picking the top 10 champions, but rather picking champions who are used in 3 or more areas of the game, preferably 4 areas of the game. That way when you invest in maybe 6-starring these champions, you know that they have that utility, that you can put them on a lot of your different teams and have success. So we're looking for not just kind of one-trick champions, but rather overall utility in this list. And I came up with really 20 champions, but we're just gonna go ahead and cut off the starting champions, right? You guys know about Elaine and Gaelic and Kale and Aethel. All of those champions are really good all-around champions that you can use up until, you know, the mid-game or early end game. So I'm not gonna go over all their sets. You guys know, or you're familiar with the starting champions in this game. So we're gonna make it a top 16 champions. We're gonna kind of go through this list rather quickly, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So starting off this list is a champion that we've never talked about here on the channel, but you guys know what I love in this game. What's my number one thing that I always talk about? It is turn meter manipulation. That's my favorite form of crowd control, I guess, behind stun, because stun is just so OP. But Diabolic is a demon spawn. She's magic affinity, and I've pulled like so many of her, and I never actually took the time to really look at her kit. If you want an increased speed champion on all allies, aside from Apothecary in the rare category, Diabolic is going to be it. She has a really cool A3 as well. So just a single hit her on the A1. You can use her in camp anywhere but Fire Knight. Let's just go ahead and say it that way. Fire Knight and Clan Boss, you're not really using your Diabolist, but anywhere else in the game, helping out against waves, campaign, heck, even the arena in the mid game, in the early game. She's great there as well, and she's good, excuse me, and she's good, of course, in Ice Golem and Dragon's Lair as well. So, Torment attacks one enemy, chance of the sleep, attacks all enemies, and then after the AoE attack on a 3-turn cooldown, the increased speed buff on all allies. So again, just like the 30% increased speed of Apothecary, without the turn meter, but instead it's an AoE attack on that ability, and like Apothecary's too, it's a 3-turn win booked. And then on the A3, this is a cool one, 4-turn win booked out, fills a turn meter of all allies by 15%, so you get that turn meter that you were lacking on the A2, and then decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 15%. So kind of a mini version, very, very miniature version of like a Lysandra and an Apothecary all kind of combined with an AoE attack too on the A2. So you can put her in like a stun set if you want to help with the CC because of the AoE. Not the best stun champion, but it's a viable option for you guys. Diabolist is a really solid champion in a variety of different areas inside the game. Next up is Requiem Tender, guys. I've mentioned her a lot here on the channel, unlike Diabolist. She is amazing. She's one of those champions that if you own her, if you've taken the time to build her out, you probably are watching this just nodding your head like, yeah, Requiem Tender is a difference maker in Ice Golem, in Dragon's Lair, in campaign locations as well. Some people even use her in Clan Boss, not where she's known to be strong, but she's, and by the way, it takes a lot of books though, just to note. Granted, they're rare books, so a little bit easier to come by in this game, but yeah, she can, yeah, that's a lot of books on the A1 here. She can place the decreased attack, on the A1. On the A2, she removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a 15% continuous heal buff on them for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. It's important to book her out to get this cooldown, so unfortunately, unless you get some good RNG, you have to kind of get, invest a lot of books on the A1 to get to the A2 to get that cooldown down to 3 turns, kind of like a miniature version of Bad L's A2, where he cleanses and then puts the continuous heal on your allies on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, unlike Bad L, no poisons there as well on the A2, but she does have a revival on a 5-turn cooldown. Revives any ally with 30% HP and fills their turn meter by 30%. Not bad from a rare, albeit a void rare champion. Requiem Tender, definitely a difference maker in terms of support inside this game in a variety of different areas. So next up is Graybeard, guys. Graybeard, another champion that, kind of could fall in the underrated category. I think a lot of people don't talk a lot about Graybeard. He's a skinwalker. He's definitely a viable champion for you guys. And the first thing I want to point out about him is actually his aura. His aura increases ally defense in dungeons by 30%. That makes him immediately an amazing option in rare I could be wrong, but I want to say there's no other rare that has a 30% defense in dungeons aura that's really extremely valuable if you don't have that Tyrell or whatever champion. And he has on his A3 a shield on himself that cannot be removed. Also has a self buff of a counterattack, can be 100% on Bring It On ability. So Graybeard, you're already seeing his kit is pretty versatile here. And then his damage is based on defense on this champion as well. An AoE attack with a 40% chance when booked of landing a freeze. So some CC there, some durability, a nice support champion with the aura. Definitely a great option for you guys. And then he has a chance, 75% chance of landing a provoke on one enemy for one turn. That provoke is an extremely valuable CC ability as well. So a lot of crowd control on a very tanky Graybeard and his damage based off defense. So hey, hopefully I've done a good job selling Graybeard to you guys. He can be used in a variety of different dungeons, really all of the dungeons because of that aura, you know, because of the one hitter on the A1, maybe not Fire Knight, but definitely Ice Golem, definitely Dragon's Lair, can use him in campaign as well. Definitely an incredibly viable champion. You can actually even use him as kind of a tank in Spiders as well. So Graybeard you can really use in a lot of different areas in this game. So next up, we're looking at Judge here. He's a Dark Elf. He can be used in campaign and spiders, dragons, ice golem, keeps, minotaurs. He's great all around, guys. And anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at his kit here. Judge was like a very accessible champion for a lot of people. He was one of the champions I remember back when I started covering this game on my other channel way back in the day. He was like the champion I would always give away for free if you downloaded Raid Shadow Legends using my link, you know? But he's actually really good. Attacks one enemy, damage increase, really good for a starting champion rare, okay? Caveat here. Attacks one enemy, damage increased by 10% for each debuff on the target, stacking to a maximum of 100%. Not bad, and that automatically makes him an early game, I stress early game option for Clan Boss, because if you can stack those poisons on the Clan Boss, well, you can do up to 100% damage extra on every single hit. It's not bad, again, for early game here on Judge against Clan Boss. So not a bad option there. You can put him with like an Outlaw Monk, you know, super early game, and actually be putting out a decent amount of damage. Attacks all enemies 2 times, and then fills a turn meter for 10% for each critical hit. So you're building him out with a 100% crit rate on a 3-turn cooldown. That's, you know, for any campaign mode, this makes Judge incredibly viable. Right? You're doing it fills his own turn meter by 10% each crit hit on you know, potentially attacking 8 times here if there's 4 mobs or 4 minions that you're attacking. So really great ability in Blade Dance on Judge. And then his passive is pretty cool too. With each hit, he has a 30% chance of landing a decreased accuracy, decreased speed, decreased attack, or a decreased defense debuff on the target for 1 turn. So again, this kind of chaos armor, it's only 1 turn, but it's a nice to kind of add that, because think about it, with each hit, and he's hitting all enemies 2 times on his A2. So nice synergy in Judge's kit. I think that Judge is a champion that a lot of people just kind of overlook, thinking he's a noob champion, but he's pretty solid. And look at his base stats too. His speed at 103 and his attack at 1476 is definitely respectable for a rare champion. Next up is Grappler. Grappler is a skinwalker. He has Spirit Affinity. He can be used in Clan Boss, in campaigns, in Dragon's Lair. Heck, you could use him in Ice Golem as well. He's a really, really versatile champion as well. He is defense-based, attacks 2 times at random, 15% chance of placing a weaken for 2 turns on the A1. Not bad for an A1. Attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance, 75 when booked, on a 3-turn cooldown of placing 2.5 poison debuffs for 2 turns. So landing those poisons, and again, each hit has a 75% chance. So that's pretty solid, hitting 2 times. On the A3, places a shield buff on all allies equal to 20% of their HP, and a reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. Envelop is a pretty substantial, pretty solid ability. Immediately makes him viable again for a Clan Boss with the poisons and the Envelop, also in Dragon's Lair. So Clan Boss and Dragon's Lair, but also Minotaurs, really anywhere in the game. Even if you wanted to maybe make a stretch on the 2 times attack at random, you could probably even get by in the early game on Fire Knight with your Grappler. So Grappler is a champion, again, that you can be using almost everywhere in the mid game as well. Increase Spirit Ally HP in all battles by 19%. Kind of a niche ability, these affinity-based auras, but hey, he has it there in case you have a team of full spirits to go along with him. Next up is Eris. Eris can be used in Campaign, in Dragon, in Ice Golem, even in early to mid-game Arena as well. She is a Force Affinity High Elf champion on the A1, attacks 1 time, grants an extra turn if the target is killed. I like these A1s, especially in rares, makes them viable for Campaign as well. Removes a random debuff from all allies, then has a 60% chance of placing an increased speed on all allies for 2 turns. I love speed in this game on a 3-turn cooldown. Thank you very much. So it's not a debuff cleanser, it just removes 1 debuff, but sometimes that's really all you need, especially on Clan Boss and in Dragon's Lair. And it can be booked up, is noteworthy, it can be booked up to 100% chance of placing that increased speed. And then she has a passive, counterattacks the attacker when an ally is attacked. So that's pretty cool, right? The Avenger ability, she will counterattack. She has the back of all of her allies, right? And then she has a speed aura in dungeons by 16%. Again, pretty solid to get that speed in dungeons from a rare champion, so you can go ahead and use her if you don't have maybe a stronger defense-based aura, depending on what you're looking for. But she can be used because of the speed aura in speed comps as well when farming in some specific dungeons in the mid-game. So Eris definitely belongs on this list. So next up is Painkeeper. We've talked a lot about her, so I'll be very brief with Painkeeper, but she can be used pretty much everywhere in the game. She's an incredibly versatile champion. On her A3, she decreases the cooldown of all ally skills by 1 turn on a 4-turn cooldown when booked, and sometimes 1 turn is all you need. I mean, it's not as OP, obviously, as Legendary Prince Kymar and his Seal of Fate A3 ability, but still, combat tactics is what Painkeeper is known for, but she also has a pretty good A2, and it is attacks all enemies, then heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP, and this scales off HP in attack with an emphasis on her HP, so you want to build a lot of HP on your Painkeeper. Now it's kind of weird, she has her A1 that flags off of defense in attack, so you just want to build her with a bunch of defense, a bunch of HP, get that heal up, and then just build like a very, very mild attack, maybe some substats on her. Attack 1 enemy 2 times, fills this champion's turn meter by 10%. Not bad, again, on unflagging advance on her A1. Another guy we won't spend a long time on is Bowyer. Bowyer I just did a guide on last week. Endgame Bowyer, he is viable into the endgame. He has an AoE on every single one of his attacks. He also has block cooldown skills debuff, decrease speed debuff, decrease attack debuff, and decrease defense debuff, albeit the weaker versions of all of those debuffs, but to have so many debuffs on one AoE champion makes him the ultimate debuffer, especially against any waves of minions that you can encounter pretty much anywhere inside the game. That is Bowyer. Next up is Marked. Marked is a Magic Affinity Barbarian champion. Marked is really, really solid for support, guys. Again, from a rare here, it is rare to get a 3-turn cooldown of the block debuffs, but more importantly, the increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns, again on a 3-turn cooldown. So you build her out with enough speed, and you can pretty much always have the increased defense, the strong version, at 60% from your Mark. That's the ability that she is known for. And then she has an A2, an AoE attack with a decreased accuracy debuff on all enemies. Pretty solid as well. And she has an A1, attacks 1 enemy, 30% chance of placing a decreased defense for 1 turn, and you can actually book that up to, 80% chance with books. So the decreased defense and the increased defense, definitely a unique skill set, a unique kit here for a rare champion in this game from Marked. Next up is Doomscreech. Doomscreech, I feel like, is a champion, a support champion who is, in my opinion, underrated in this game. He can actually be used, despite his ratings, he can be used more than just the Arena and Clan Boss. He can be actually used in Fire Knight, in Dragon's Lair, in Minotaur's Labyrinth as well. He's definitely a great champion because of his second ability, but his overall kit is pretty solid. 1 enemy 2 times on the A1, scales off of attack and HP, has a chance of placing a decreased accuracy as well, fills the Warning Screech, right? 3-turn cooldown, and again, we just talked about this on Marked. has a 60% chance of placing a, or excuse me, 100% chance of placing a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, fills the turn meter of all allies by 30%. It's very similar to the Seeker ability, except for he has attack up, but he has an increased defense on a 2-turn cooldown, on a 3-turn cooldown for 2 turns. Really, really solid there in Doomscreech. And then he has an AoE attack on his Shelter ability. Attacks all enemies. Plays a shield buff equal to 30% max HP on this champion for 2 turns. Damage increases according to this champion's current HP. Damage is based on HP on a 5-turn cooldown. This can do some decent damage to enemies. It's an AoE attack and it's based on his HP. So you build him out with a ton of hit points. His hit points for a rare are already pretty respectable at 20k, and that is Doomscreech. Next up is Coldheart. I'm going to have an endgame Coldheart guide coming to you guys soon. She is known primarily because of her Heartseeker ability. One enemy fully decreases the target's turn meter by 100%, has an extra 30% of inflicting a critical hit, and damage increases according to max enemy HP on a 4-turn cooldown. Heartseeker, one of the most famous, most well-known abilities inside this entire game. She is end game viable, more so than any single champion on today's list. I think she's the best rare champion in the game, personally, just because of her end game viability. Again, more so than any other rare, including Kale, for example. Coldheart is a beast. Next up is another support champion who I haven't talked about much on the channel here. It's Spirit Host. She's easy to farm in campaign, so all of you watching right now can unlock your very own Spirit Host. She is not endgame viable, but definitely beginning and mid-game viable. She's a great champion to kind of build up to be one of your main supports. She heals herself by 50% of the damage inflicted on her A1, so she'll keep herself alive. She has an A2 where she places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, so a nice buffer there. And then on the A3, a beautiful cleanse ability, Dark Gift. Removes all debuffs from all allies, and then places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 1 turn, granted on a 5-turn cooldown. So Spirit Host, I'm including her on this list because you don't get blown away by her kit. Her aura, by the way, is solid too. Increased speed in all battles. So it's a good aura to have if you have no other aura champions in whatever composition. She's more early game focused and into the mid game, but I want to include her on this list because I think that she's easily accessible and she's really solid for support on your team. That is Spirit Host. Next up is a champion I haven't talked a lot about, Bannerlord Magic Affinity champion. It's Valerie. So Valerie has an amazing shield ability. She's just an amazing champion all around for a rare support champion. Here we go, attacks 1 enemy, pretty basic on swing. Even the name of the ability, they keep it real with you. She's going to swing. There you go, swing. Not much to talk about there, guys. On the A2, though, much more interesting, right? An energizing presence. Increases the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn. That's incredible right there. Just increase the duration of all buffs. Think about if you have her with like a Skull Crusher or a Valkyrie if you have, or a Martyr, increasing duration of counterattack, it's going to be great, right? Against Clan Boss or any other dungeon. Also decreases the duration of all debuffs on all allies by 1 turn, and then places a 25% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, all on a 3-turn cooldown. That's a great ability here. And then on the A3, it gets even better. Protect. Plays a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield depends on this champion's level. Heals each ally according to the number of buffs they are currently under. This is a great kind of shield, great shield, and then add a little bit of heal to it. It's a great ability, Protect, and Valerie's kit is just really, really solid for a rare support champion. Arena, campaign, spiders, ice golem, dragon, you name it. You can use Seducer almost everywhere in this game. He is a Void Affinity Undead Horde champion. Has the damage, by the way, based on defense on this champion as well, which you like to see. Has a sleep chance on the A1. On the A2, has the decreased attack on an AoE for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Thank you very much. And the Twisted Devotion has an increased defense weak version of all allies for 2 turns and a block debuffs for 2 turns. turns on a 4-turn cooldown, so it could ask for a little bit more on Twisted Devotion, but still not a bad ability. Selfless Partner is only available when Temptress is on the same team, which usually is not the case, so we're just going to go ahead and skip that one, but it does have an Ally Protect to make his kit even more valuable. Increases ally HP in all battles by 25%. Really solid aura, too, on your Seducer. Definitely belongs on this list. Nice cape, too. Kind of Dracula-esque. So we're going to end this video off with 2 Barbarian champions, starting with War Maiden. Of course she makes this list. She is one of the best rares in the game, in my opinion. You can really use her anywhere. Arena, campaigns, Spider's Den, Dragon's Lair, all of the dungeons for the most part. Ice Golem as well. Attack 1 enemy, 30% chance of placing the poison for 1 turn. That makes her also viable in early game and mid game clan boss. On the A2, attacks 1 enemy, places an increased attack buff on this champion, places an extra hit if it's critical, whatever. She's all known for the A3. On an AoE, on a 3-turn cooldown, exactly what we're looking for, we have 100% when booked of placing the strong version of decreased defense. So a great debuffer here. On the AoE debuffer with a strong version of decreased defense on the 3-turn cooldown, you're looking at War Maiden and only War Maiden in the rare category for that quality of debuffer in this game. Because of the Crumbling Blast, War Maiden is just one of the best rares in the game. Soulbound Bowyer, you can use her in Spiders in the Arena. She's a great champion for Arena. Not speed farming, but definitely a heavy hitter. You can use her in Dragon's Lair. You can use her in Campaign. You can use Soulbound, who is one of the kind of newer rares now. I've been saying she's a new rare for a while now. You can use her in Campaign because, check it out, an AoE attack on her A1, and it's a pretty decently hard-hitting ability, too. Has a 25% chance extra critical chance on all of her abilities, so you can build her out again in crit damage gauntlets to get a lot of damage out of your soul bond. On the A2, attacks 1 enemy, 25% critical hit, ignores 75% of the target's defense. That is a very hard-hitting ability for the Arena. And on the A3, a different kind of heavy one-hitter. A lot of books can go into this, by the way. As you guys can see, 9 levels on Soulbound Shot. Attacks 1 enemy, 25% extra critical hit chance again, and then has a 75% chance of fully depleting the target's turn meter. That makes her viable too in Spider's Den. So definitely a lot of utility in your Soulbound Bowyer. Spiders, dragons, you name it, she's good pretty much everywhere. I guess the only exception maybe being in Fire Knight. So Soulbound Bowyer finishes off this list, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you're doing safe, staying informed out there, and just taking it day by day. Thinking about you guys. Hope you're doing well. Subscribe if you want more Raid Shadow Legends content. You're going to get it either way on a daily basis here on the channel. Thank you for the support recently, guys. It means a lot. And as always, take care, guys.